All of these things are made possible because of computers, and therefore because of cyber. And when something goes wrong, cyber can make all of these things impossible. But that's where I step in. A big part of my job is defending all of these things, keeping them working. But once in a while, part of my job is to break one of these things, because cyber isn't just about defense, it's also about offense. We're entering an age where we talk about cyber weapons. In fact, so great is the potential for cyber offense that cyber is considered a new domain of warfare. Warfare. It's not necessarily a bad thing. On the one hand, it means we have a whole new front on which we need to defend ourselves. But on the other hand, it means we have a whole new way to attack, a whole new way to stop evil people from doing evil things. So let's consider an example of this, just completely theoretical. Suppose a wants to blow up a building, and he wants to do this again and again in the future. So he doesn't want to be in that building when it explodes. He's going to use his cell phone as a remote detonator. Now, it used to be the only way we had to stop this was with a hail of bullets and a car chase, but that's not necessarily true anymore. We're entering an age where we can stop him with the press of a button from 1,000 miles away. Because whether he knew it or not, as soon as he decided to use his cell phone, he stepped into the realm of cyber. A well-crafted cyber attack could break into his phone, disable the overvoltage protections on his battery, drastically overload the circuit, cause the battery to overheat and explode. No more phone, no more detonator, maybe no more terrorist, all with the press of a button from 1,000 miles away. So how does this work? It all comes.
When I heard this story where pagers were blowing up in the Middle East, and I don't mean by notifications, I mean they were actually exploding, I had thought about two stories that I had covered on this channel. One of those stories being these alerts that had been sent to all of our phones. Another story being this CrowdStrike causing this global outage when it comes to Windows computers and other Windows applications. Hearing this story where these pagers are blowing up in Lebanon really makes me wonder what exactly was placed inside of our devices, because I had thought originally when this story broke out that a device was placed inside these pagers, and once it hit a certain date and time, this device caused these pagers to all explode at once. This had made the most sense to me because there are always explosions taking place in the Middle East. People are always coming up with different ways to place explosive devices into certain objects to cause them to explode. But I was surprised to learn that that was not the case at all. What is being reported is that these pagers were hacked with a certain malware. This malware caused these pagers to increase in temperature. They started to get hotter and hotter until they finally exploded. Now, pardon my French, excuse my foul language, but you would have to be a real Brussels sprout to believe that something like this could only happen in Lebanon with pagers or in the Middle East. You may be saying, thankfully, I don't live in Lebanon or one of those Middle Eastern countries where something like this could happen, but everything you have can be hacked, even right down to your TV. 99% of the cars you see on the road today are easily hackable through Bluetooth and other means. The 1% are still driving old school muscle cars. This is why you see NASA has a field of old school muscle cars. What was NASA's official response as to why they have these old school cars? Their response was they were studying the aging process, that they need cars that go back to the 1980s so they can study the aging process. Now, who out there really believes that explanation? So before we get back to this story, I just want to mention that anything that can get malware will get malware. Anything that can get hacked will be hacked. But going back to this story here, I am reading from the AP. I do believe they have the most updated article from the time that I'm making this video. They updated this article about 20 minutes ago. The title of this article happens to be Hezbollah hit by a wave of exploding pagers and blames Israel. At least 9 have passed away and thousands injured. Pagers used by hundreds of members of the militant group Hezbollah exploded near simultaneously in Lebanon and Syria on Tuesday, ending the lives of at least 9 people, including an 8-year-old girl, and wounding several thousand, officials said. Hezbollah and the Lebanese government blame Israel for what appeared to be a sophisticated remote attack. Now, again, they can go back and forth blaming whoever, But when I hear that malware is being placed in devices and causing them to heat up and explode, this reminds me of CrowdStrike. And who owns CrowdStrike? Who developed CrowdStrike? The World Economic Forum. Because it's not just Israel or any other country in the Middle East or any one country that has the means and capabilities to hack our phones, computers, and apparently pagers. But there are shadow organizations. There are organizations like the World Economic Forum that had shown us at any time, at any moment, they can bring the grid down. Your personal computer may not have been affected that day. I do know others that were, but big organizations were affected. Airlines were affected. Supermarkets, pharmacies, and so forth were all affected. But anyway, continuing to read from the story, it says the pagers that blew up had apparently been acquired by Hezbollah after the group's leader ordered members in February to stop using cell phones, warning they could be tracked by Israeli intelligence. A Hezbollah official told the Associated Press the pagers were a new brand, but declined to say how long they had been in use. But anyway, continuing to read from this article, it says, at about 3:30 p.m. local time on Tuesday, as people shopped for groceries, sat in cafes, or drove cars and motorcycles in the afternoon traffic, the pagers in their hands or pockets started heating up and then exploding, leaving blood-splattered scenes and panicking bystanders. The article goes on to say it appeared that many of those hit were members of Hezbollah, but it was not immediately clear if others also carried the pagers. They go on to say that the pagers blew up in areas where Hezbollah has a very heavy presence. Now, a majority of these articles just go on about how there's a conflict in the Middle East involving Israel, Lebanon, Iran, and so forth, things we already know, but I'm mainly interested in just how these pagers had exploded. Now, in the article it says, we still don't know how they had exploded, but some speculation has focused on the radio network that pagers rely on, suggesting that it may have been hacked, causing the system to emit a signal that triggered a response within the already doctored pagers. Now, multiple data analysts are speaking out and giving multiple theories, such as Ralph Beydoun. He says, what I think happened is that every Hezbollah member who was at a specific level was attacked. He also suggested that Israel would not need to know the names of whoever received the corrupted signal, but it could gather valuable intelligence after the detonations. If they had the satellites on, they would know the names and locations of all operatives who were attacked immediately when they asked for help. They would disclose their locations, he speculated. Now, like I said, other analysts are also talking about this event, such as a former British officer and chemical weapons expert, suggesting that Hezbollah's pagers may have been tampered with along the supply chain and wired to explode on command. Then it goes on to ask, okay, but how could a pager blow up? If the pager's lithium battery was triggered to overheat, this would kickstart a process called thermal runaway. Essentially, a chemical chain reaction would occur, leading to an increase in temperature and eventually the battery's violent explosion. So they are saying that it is not known for anything on the internet to do that to a phone or some kind of pager device, but they are not taking it off the table that a certain malware can indeed cause your phone or pager to heat up, causing the battery to explode. Now, there are indeed multiple theories going on, but they are not taking it off the table that it was a malware hack. But you may also be saying, well, I'm not in Hezbollah or in any one of these groups, so again, I don't have to worry. But again, we do not know what was placed in our phones during this whole Signal incident on October 4th. We don't know what was placed into our Windows devices during the whole CrowdStrike incident. We don't know when they want to shut down our computers and our phones if a false flag were to happen, some kind of worldwide hacking or a mass hacking like we have seen in movies like Leave the World Behind, Barack Obama's scripted movie. So it's very, very interesting that a potential hack could exist that could increase the temperature of our devices, potentially causing them to explode, causing the battery to explode. Very, very interesting timing. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support.